Welcome back to another part of the AI Examiner program, and this part I just want to show the prototype which I've been working on. So yeah, this is a prototype using the same sort of marking algorithm as I mentioned last time, and the idea is if I go into the marking API, we're just going to be sending over a script, and for each mark point we're going to be asking ChatGPT whether it fits the student's response. So, implemented this into a front end. You can see that I've taken question papers. I've taken questions from the OCR May 2018 Physics A-Level Paper 1. So I've just imported these questions. The way I've imported them is so essentially I've got the question papers, each question is its own little image, and then I've got the mark scheme points as their own separate image on each one, like this. So this was all done manually. I might automate this in the future, but just for this prototype I've done it manually. If you go to the HTML, you can see this is a pretty basic template. So we have the part where the user enters their answer. So this is a question, shows number of marks. Then the answer text field is just a div with content editable. Mark button, loader just for loading, and then a marking area. So each mark point has its own separate div with a checkbox and image, and have total marks labels. That's the basic HTML template. These are questions are stored. We have the image URLs just for the images of the questions, like since this is an image, not actually text. Then we have a mark scheme as its own image, and for each mark scheme we have the point. So for example, if this was a mark scheme, a singular point would be just this row with B1. And the parsed alternatives, so this is where I'm basically parsing the mark scheme and giving all the alternatives. So you can see for this first question there's a bunch of alternatives here, and there's another alternative here, although I don't think I've implemented that. And you can see inside of the if we go to the paper here, paper data, you can see I'm basically adding in the alternatives here using a quick this little helper function here, just so I don't have to type it out every single time, but this is conforming to the same JSON schema. And yeah, so you can see these are the alternatives, and each array represents an individual marking point, shown by images here. Let me try and find one. Yeah, so here's an alternative. So all of the items in this array are alternatives to get the mark, and I think that refers to this question here. Yeah, so for this third mark there's a bunch of different alternative answers, and I've implemented that like this here. Alright, so that is the basic concept. When a question is loaded, it just populates all the HTML items. Then when a user clicks marks, it initializes that marking question marking API object here, gets a student response, and gets a feedback using GPT. Then it just puts all of this into a nice HTML template, and it also has updated sort of checkbox so the user can fix it if there's a mistake. And yeah, that's essentially it. And let's have a look at how it performs. So I'll do this first question. This is the question. Describe how it can be used to find final velocity. So if you know how it works, basically if we look at the mark scheme, you'll see it wants us to say distance is measured using a meter ruler and time measured just using a stopwatch. So let's write something like that. A student might say measure the length of the ramp using a meter ruler, and I'll put them on two separate points. Measure the time taken for trolley to reach the bottom of the ramp using a stopwatch. And then the final point is, well, for stating that it wants you to find a final velocity. If you know about Subat equations, you know that we can use the equation s equals u plus vt over 2, with u as 0 meters per second since this trolley starts from rest. So therefore we can work out the final velocity with just a bit of rearranging. It's just going to be 2s over 2, or the final velocity equals 2 times the average velocity. since this here represents the average velocity, that's a 2 scalar multiple, and this is the final velocity. So I'm going to copy this. You can see I've also got two options for using the GPT 3.5 API or the GPT 4 API. Now, I haven't actually shown this to the user of this prototype, but the GPT 4 API is 60 times more expensive, so I'm going to try and not use it whenever possible, but it is definitely more accurate than the GPT 3. So, alright, so you can see here we've got the 2 marks, and something's gone wrong with the highlighting. Yeah, so here you can see it's got the right sort of idea, but I think there's just gone wrong something when due to the 2 separate points. But that's fine, you can see it marked it pretty well. We got 2 out of 2, which is to be expected. And yeah, let me show you another example. Let's say we only had the second point, so final velocity equals 2 times average velocity. Okay, so we seem to have hit a problem. So right, it's just a prototype. This is clearly a mark, but obviously GPT-3 wasn't able to find it. We can actually try this again. I'll copy that, and hopefully it works this time. Okay, yeah, it's alright. This is, in these kind of cases, GPT 3.5 is still quite unreliable, but I think if I use GPT 4, we should be good. So, yeah, there we go. So GPT 4, it's a lot more accurate, but this API call here was 60 times more expensive than if I did it with GPT 3.5. So I guess I'll have to do some analysis on cost versus increased accuracy, see how it works. Maybe in testing, I'll just use GPT 3.5 or GPT 4. And yeah, I'll just see. But yeah, that was a demonstration. This will work for all of the questions here. And I'm planning to release a testing scheme, beta testing, within the next week or two. So if anyone would like to test this, send me a message or put a comment in this video. And yeah, I might be able to let you in. Now, you might notice that there's some nuances in the mark scheme. For example, some questions such as this one, for 1 mark you need to have 2 separate points. So there's things like that where you need multiple parts of a thing to get a single mark. There's also keywords. In this case, average is a keyword, and I hadn't actually included that in this first prototype, so we'll need to deal with that. Another thing is dependent marks. I don't know if there's any in here, but sometimes in mark schemes, especially in calculations, actually, let me see. So sometimes you only get the second mark if the first mark has been achieved. So the second mark would be dependent on the first mark. You need to figure out how to implement that. And yeah, there's also alternate answers, alternate mark schemes, but overall those are all different implementations, and I'm sure I can figure out a new method which handles all of them efficiently. So yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's any other nuances in a regular mark scheme. Yeah, I believe that's it. There's definitely a few others, but I'll get to those in future prototypes. Hopefully you guys could understand and see the effectiveness of this first prototype, even if it's a bit inaccurate using GPT 3.5. So yeah, if you'd like to be part of a beta testing scheme, just send a comment down below and I'll let you know when it's ready. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video, since I'll be uploading some testing data of me testing this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in a future tutorial. Bye.